Another amazing day here in paradise. Heading over to icebergs. We'll be finishing off at icebergs today. Such a good spot. Hopefully we get to see a couple of dogs. There's some dogs up ahead. Maybe I'll try and catch up to them. So today I want to start off with something that was really sweet. You know, I encountered this girl, this lady on Facebook, and she was talking about a really cool concept that I quite like. It's to talk about and to start to share, I suppose, more of a visionary view or approach to all of this, because there are a lot of reactionary stuff, reactionary people talking and sharing and getting grumpy and all that sort of stuff. But really, I think it's a good idea to start viewing from like, what's the best outcome of this? If we do have that kind of French Revolution type thing where they chop off all the heads, which, you know, maybe it's gonna happen. They probably won't have the guillotine in the middle of Sydney like they did in Paris. But who knows, right? Who knows where we'll be in 2 years from now? Nonetheless, if we do get rid of all the douchebags and we have a fresh start, a blank slate, just like they did in Paris, how would that look for you? What's your perfect outcome if that was actually going to happen? So for me, I do have that vision, and I'd like to share that today. I'd like to start off with something a little positive. Because for me, firstly, I want to have this Entrecom vision of mine, which is pretty close to fruition, where I have an entire block of thought leaders building their brand together while still having a job, hopefully, if there's any jobs left, while still having a job and actually working together. Let's have a look at some scenery. Can I do it in this mode? No. While they're living together, working on their vision and sharing their message, and kind of like a Big Brother scenario, but based around being an entrepreneur. Anyway, that's a big part of my vision. And like alongside that, not only do I want to have that city life here in this heaven of Bondi, which, by the way, where's the death signs? Oh no, they're still down there. Let's look at some awesome graffiti. This is so cool here. Always gets updated. Local Bondis. A little bit of local Bondi news for you, huh? Anyway, a city life where you get to build your vision, you know, and serve your purpose. And then also to have access to or part ownership in a country estate. You know, there's so many people in my world are expressing a desire for like a commune where they can grow their veggies and they can tend the farm and have access to food and all those sorts of things and to live with like-minded people in a nice country environment. For me, in a couple of years or in a year from now, if all hell breaks loose and we decapitate all the baddies, that would be my favorite outcome. City life and access to a country life, maybe within a couple of hours, and to have access to both, and for that to be a normal part of everybody's world, not just the lucky ones, everybody's world. That's my vision. What's your vision? I'd love you to share that with me, because I think we really need to start to flip the focus. And instead of being pissed off and reactive, let's start to think like, if we fix it, then what? I think that's a good state for our brains to start to go to. Let's have a look at my notes. So today, tell you what, speaking of food supply, you know, I really think that's something that everybody needs to be aware of. Maybe you're not hearing it on the mainstream news, but there's some pretty serious issues coming up. Food prices are going up. If you have the ability to develop, or if you already have a skill that is like a barterable skill, where you can maybe build a fence or fix electrical stuff or do something like that, I think that's a really good thing to be aware of. Maybe you know how to do compost. Maybe you know how to, I don't know, do something with farms. If you can have access to the food supply in the next 10 years, that is a very good thing to be conscious of and to be actively working towards. And you know, if you have the ability to buy property, maybe think about the food supply. What's going on in the food supply? How can you invest nearby? A little bit of an update with crypto. Had a fun little couple of days. Woke up, I think it was Friday morning, and the prices had dropped from 16,000 for a Bitcoin, Aussie dollars, down to, skate or die, man, down to like 14,000. So I jumped on my phone, I bought another bunch, And then, of course, it kept dropping. But I tell you what, that is just the name of the game. So if you're going to get involved in that stuff, you've got to have patience. You've got to see it for the long term. And you just got to find that kind of thing amusing. Apparently, here's a doggy. Apparently, it's because in China, there were some floods. What up, pup? Yes. In China, there were some floods. A lot of the miners had a bit of a hard time over there. The DeFi bubble had a bit of a pop. So, you know, a bunch of money exited. People freaked out. Someone in Korea got hacked. And those who don't really know what's going on think the world's collapsing, so they kind of pull their money out. But I tell you what, in the property market here in Australia, there's been some, obviously a lot of ruffled feathers lately. But at the moment, there is 1 in 5, so 800,000 stressed mortgages. No, 800,000 mortgage holders who have deferred their payments in Australia alone, right? And that's 1 in 5 of all mortgage holders. The banks have just employed thousands of people to start making phone calls. Not a very comfortable phone call, I would imagine, but there's some pretty serious phone calls about to start happening. We're going to be like, oh, hey man, got to start paying your money back. And, and at the same time, they're starting to pull away all this kind of free money, and jobs are still getting lost and businesses are still getting closed. So tough gig. I'm glad I'm not in that boat. Those freedom protests were an interesting little event, wasn't it? Apparently Byron was good in a sense, not surprised. A lot of enlightened thought leaders out there who are kind of brave. But I don't know what happened in Sydney. I didn't go. But in Melbourne, I think I was watching some really awesome chick. She was talking about how if this is going to happen, it has to be all or nothing, And if some of the leaders, the thought leaders and the organizers are saying, let's cancel it, then I think that's a really good thing to be aware of, because if there's 20,000 people on the streets, then it's going to have an impact. If there's 1,000 people, then, well, you probably saw what happened in Melbourne, right? You just get snapped off and arrested, and, that's not a very good thing. So, that's what I think. Keep that in mind for the future. If there's going to be big numbers, probably a good idea. So I've had some pretty cool people reach out since I started doing these videos. Much appreciated. A lot of support. A lot of people saying they're getting some good value. So I will continue doing them. My last video was 22 minutes, and considering I've been doing this stuff for many years, I knew better, but I lost track because it was like 1 trillion degrees and my mind stopped working. But these videos from here on in are going to be between 10 and 12 minutes is my goal. How good's Bondi? Check that out. So, a little answering a couple of questions. So Sean, wanting to buy some more gold. Can't believe you bought back in 2009. That was a good move. The EFTs and all those sorts of traded funds is something to be really aware of. So Sean was asking me, he's thinking of buying some more gold. He's got some money in the bank. Was wondering if what's the difference between buying EFT funds and all that stuff on the share market versus going and buying some actual bullion. Well, here's one thing to keep in mind, Sean, and anyone else. For every paper contract for an ounce of gold that's out there, so what that means is that I have a piece of paper that says that I own some gold. For every paper contract, every 100 contracts, there is only one piece of gold. So that means when people, and this is starting to happen, when people start to call on and say, oh, hey, I've got a piece of paper that says I own some gold. When people are like, oh, hey, can you send me your gold, that gold that I own? That is now starting to happen, and there's not enough gold to go around. So, kind of interesting. And I think, what have I done with my camera? Pointing it up to the sky. I was trying to show you this beautiful swimming pool. I'm coming down to join up. I've been for as many swims here. Look at that, so good. That's my 10-minute timer. So also, the other question that I got was Natha. She was asking, where did I put that little piece? Oh yeah, this is an Osmo Pocket. Everybody's asking me what kind of device I'm using. This is an Osmo Pocket with the extension rod. It's a really cool piece of equipment. It shoots at pretty high resolution. The reason, one of the things that happened last week, once I got to about 15 minutes, it actually cut the video and I had to go home and stitch it together, and that's why the video was one day late last week. But super cool toy, Osmo Pocket. The whole kit costs about $800-900. If you haven't been down to Icebergs lately, or if you haven't been to Bondi, this is quite an iconic piece that I'm sure you're aware of. It's one of my preferred places for a coffee and a swim, of course. Just a couple of things that are going on in Bondi at the moment, because I do like to share what's happening here in Bondi. There's a new co-working space. It's called Go Work. It's on the corner of Glen Eyre and Hall Street. Very cool joint. They had their opening night the other day. Went down there for a bit of a speaker series. Some good people. We had to sit down during the networking, which is just a shame and a little bit dumb, but whatevs. I have a Master Your Money thing. I tell you what, one of the things that's starting to get a little bit crazy out there is the censorship. You know, if we're trying to run ads, I run a webinar that teaches people how to manage their personal finances, particularly for self-employed people, how to split their personal finances away from their business finances. Impossible to advertise, illegal to use almost any word. And I tell you what, censorship is starting to suck bastards. On October the 1st, there's going to be a whole bunch of new Facebook rules that basically say if you say anything they don't agree with, they can delete you and everything that you have on Facebook. So I am proactively and quite aggressively launching different social media channels, such as Proton Mail is not a channel, but it's a way to get some private, non-Google, non-Facebook kind of email. Proton Mail, start with that is my suggestion, and then open up a library account, a BitChute account, a Vero, MeWe, and a bunch of different social media channels, because the odds are that the people who are trying to actually help you nowadays are going to be deleted from a lot of those social media channels. So it's a really good time before October 1st to go and start your second layer of social media. You know, it's not just Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So yeah, anyway, that is what I'm spending the rest of today on, as well as enjoying Bondi and this little piece of heaven. So yeah, Master Your Money webinar on tomorrow night. Really hard to get registrations because we're not allowed to talk about it. It's pretty much illegal to help people with your money. Vision and Vino, if you want to design a vision board while having some cheese and crackers and some nice glasses of wine in my house in Bondi Beach, that is definitely something to keep in mind. It's a very popular event, so it will sell out. That's on Friday night this week. And I've got a life design workshop coming up soon. So keep that posted. In the meantime, thanks for your support, guys. Thanks for your likes, comments, and shares, of course. Always makes a big difference. And keep asking me questions that I can answer here on the videos, because that gives me specific things to talk about, which makes, you know, it gives you more value and it lets me help you help. So you help me to help you and everybody else. Let's finish off with a doggy. I'm going to try and sneak a little picture of this guy. What up, puppy? Everybody loves the doggies. Where am I? Shooting the concrete.